We're very honored to have partnered with the United Nations Foundation for the first time for our Environment Expert event that we held back in Arizona in May, and we're looking forward to working with them on their campaigns in the years to come. So please welcome the Chief Communications and Marketing Officer of the United Nations Foundation, Sherinian.
It is so great to be in a room like this where it's not just about the energy, but it's about the action. So thank you for allowing me to share a couple of moments with you. And to begin with a story. Speaking between Dambisa and Jerome is a major, major challenge and a good opportunity because the message is you're revolutionaries. Let me tell you about the revolutionary who, for me, brings that point home every single day. I've got a daughter. Her name is Julia. She's awesome. She's 11. And Julia, I think, has the greatest dad in the world, okay? So I'm the cool dad, or so I think. And I take Julia the other day to a concert, and Julia hears about the things that we just heard about from Dambisa. She hears about poverty. She hears how poverty is sexist. She hears about water and sanitation, about how people today are dying of diarrhea, something that is preventable. My daughter's hearing about the fact that there are women who are dying in childbirth, a preventable thing. And my daughter turns to me, even though I'm the cool dad, and she says to me, "Dad, wait, you're like 90 years old?" And she asks me two questions, and I say to the One Young World community, these are the two questions that are revolutionary. My daughter says to me, "What are we doing about it, and how will we know it's working?" Listen to what she says. What are we doing about it, and how will we know it's working? That's a revolutionary comment from a revolutionary girl because she lives in an era where you've got a tool in your hand that allows all of that to happen. Now, when people talk about the leaders of the world, most often and many times, they'll think about this building, a building that I know that some of you know, many of you have been to, where a lot of important things go on, important things that need to be talked about together. But take it from some of us who've been there, some of us who've been to UN General Assembly meetings many, many times over, that more and more world leaders are as interested in what's happening in this building, but they're interested in this. They're interested in what's happening in the commentary before the meeting. They're interested in what's happening here in Ottawa. They're interested in listening and getting their talking points from revolutionaries like you who are asking the question, what are you doing about it? And what was the second question? How will we know it's working? Is anyone awake today? What are the two questions? What are you doing about it? And number two, how will we know it's working? Those are the questions that a generation like you is demanding from your world leaders. You're talking about it, and you're putting them on notice. That is part of a history, and you're building, and the things we've talked about today are building on something revolutionary that's been in the works. And it's my job to tell you today that you're sitting in a moment where you can be proud of it, you can squander it, or you can absolutely leverage it. Because in the year 2000, smart people came together, some of the leaders that you've heard of here, and they said, unless we start measuring stuff, and unless we start talking to people, we're never gonna get there. So in 2000, you know what they did? They came up with the Millennium Development Goals, and political processes started, and they were important documents, and they were documents like this, and there were things that got voted on, and they were things that were talked about with people that sit in tables like this and on seats like this. But the Millennium Development Goals taught us that we had to go deeper, that you should have a seat, not at the kids' table, but that you should have a seat at the table, and that you should be the one setting the agenda. That might not be happening fast enough for everybody, but there are people who put their careers on the line, their lives on the line, and they're counting on you to take your seat at the table and to ask those key questions. Because now in 2015, whether or not you were watching last year, but I know the One Young World community does because your leadership matters. In 2015, the leaders of every nation came together and said, we're gonna take on a new set of goals, and we're not gonna be happy when they look like this. We're not gonna be happy to let them just sit and look like a document like this. We're gonna make them something that a generation like the One Young World community can take on, and they can be shareable. They can be something that can be identifiable. They can be measurable. You are living in an opportunity moment where we know that the Sustainable Development Goals will live and thrive if you're talking about them. The Sustainable Development Goals will live and thrive if you're sharing on them. And we can talk for hours about whether or not collectivism has impact. But one click from you on one of these to your world leaders is the pressure they need before they go to that big UN building. This is not about sitting at tables talking. This is about where we were in 2000, where we were in 2015 when world leaders came and adopted these, and where you are saying we want to be. Because the two questions, what are we doing about it, and how will we know it's working, is now measurable. We've got the metrics, and you have the social media technology to take a data visualization and put it in the face of a world leader and put it in the face of those who care, to put it in the face of those in the media who are going to be reporting on these issues. The 2030 world is a world that's going to need you taking your seat at the big table, not the kids' table, because it's your 2030. It's a 2030 where you're going to be calling on the people to make the noise that matters, and it's a 2030 where it's not about a couple of us, but it's about all of us. What are we doing about it? How will we know it's working? That's why we're all excited that the person in the leadership seat is you. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.